Good evening. I am Adam Curlin. I'm a chemistry and physics teacher at Forest City High School. I also will be the head of the science department there as the MCL or multi classroom leader. I teach nearly 100% African American students with a gender divide of 52% female and 48% male. My incoming students have scored below expectations for the past couple of years on the ACT and the ACT Aspire. So, this is my introduction to what an effective teacher is. I believe an effective teacher must use high leverage practices from group discussions to analyzing instruction for the purpose of improving to allows teachers to get the best training that would allow for responsible teaching. Foundational practices must be used constantly in class to allow for student development. Teachers must also focus on the culture they are learning to achieve this deeper learning. Teaching with equity requires teachers to focus on the culture, and no deeper learning can occur without it. Students in these communities must be reached in different ways by teachers who most likely have not grown up in the communities they have found themselves in. The 21st century classroom is diverse. While the 21st century teacher is not, they're still primarily white, they're still primarily female. So, how to best reach these impoverished students, teachers must be adept at reaching many cultures at once. So, during the course of this 5 weeks course, I have focused on three strategies that I wish to implement in my classroom in the coming semester. The first one is restorative conversations, and why is because I want to increase student voice in my class. The second one is reinforce group routines. I do want to make sure all students are on task. So again, all students have a voice in my class. The third strategy is students naming a process of how they've solved a problem. So once I go in to start talking about giving feedback, they can tell me how they've done it. They can tell their peers how they did it. This focuses increased metacognition and why are we thinking, how are we thinking. It increases better learners, students who can think for themselves. So strategy one, restorative conversations. So something that I'm very much focused on and done a lot. I think it's one of the first years things he can hammer into you is establish norms and expectations in your classroom. How this is done, what it looks like. That's not really explained, especially in first year PDs. But you're told to do it. You're told maybe you have maybe school-wide norms. So maybe everybody has to be respectful, be on time, stuff like that. They want to see in every classroom. So this I definitely get hammered into is that I must establish norms and expectations in my classroom. In my classroom, I want to focus more on how the strategy is connected to the concerns for my students and their voices. As a teacher, I think one of my primary goals is to advocate and help my students learn how to speak out and be functional human beings. What is absolutely not my goal is to send students into ISS, detention, or OSS. Students facing harsh punitive measures in high school are much more likely to face prison time. Having restorative conversations would help with classroom management, which is important. All classroom students must succeed in your classroom, but also allowing for students to stay inside the classroom. Um, so the impact of this study, this continuing with why I chose it, is students' continual presence in my class. Since the student will not miss as many days, they'll find more successes in my quizzes and work in my schools. Restorative conversations fixes absences in two ways. First, a student will not be in trouble as often, especially from me, so suspensions will go down. Secondly, students are more likely to not skip a class that they feel safe in. My focus on data to confirm the impact of restorative conversations would be look at suspension data and the absentee data. If the foot numbers of absences from suspensions and other assorted issues go down, then I will confirm the impact of restorative conversations. And so how am I going to do it? I'm going to start having conversations with children during lunch or immediately after class when I see the issue. These restorative conversations, that is. As a partial MCL, I will also have time to pull students outside of class, since I will be able to come in and observe my fellow teachers, and I'll have conversations with them during that time. I'll implement it immediately when school starts. For any reason, I'll be pulling students out and have these conversations very early on, knowing that it's not a punitive measure again. This is about having these conversations to heal, to fix what's probably been years in the making. And I'll again implement looking at suspension data very quickly. So my question for my peers is, number one, if anybody has any like videos for on a high school level of these restorative conversations taking place. I love watching videos for my own practice and how to become better. So I would love to see, again, very specifically on a high school level. Middle school and elementary can give me tips, but seeing this being effective in a high school classroom is my preference. And my second question is based around the MCL opportunity for my peers. A lot of these students I'll be reaching out to and having these conversations will be with teachers that are kind of under me. So my question is, how do I have these conversations with students I don't teach? So I don't have this connection or this the norms and expectations I would have with all of my other students that I do teach, and it's something I've never done before. So that'd be my question for strategy 1. So strategy 2, reinforcing group routines. So what I have done a lot is designing tasks appropriate for small group work. One of the pleasures of being a science teacher is laboratories, of course. So I'm constantly working in labs. I'm constantly designing tasks for students in labs, and this is all group work. I very rarely assign work that's one-on-one or a one student is allowed to do it. However, the thing I would like to focus on is the actual reinforcement of group work roles. So I'm going in and saying this student does this student does this, and it'd just be this constant reinforcement like some of the videos had. But so why? Some of my concerns in working as a class and a group is making sure all students are on task. Small group work and peer work has been shown to improve engagement and test scores. Being able to make sure all students are on task while doing it has always been a challenge. I therefore think that reinforcing small group routines and work during class is something I really would like to focus on. I do expect students to be more engaged in classwork while completing tasks and group work. I already see this without enforced group routines. Student surveys would be a key way for me to kind of implement this and see if it's actually working. I can do them at the start of the year, and then I can do them further on as the year goes on, seeing if these are actually being effective in classroom engagement. So, how? The start of every group assignment, I will announce the roles of every group. I'm thinking a manager, a presenter, a recorder, and a collector. This would change, of course, over depending on the task. If it's lab, if it's a project, what are we doing? It's going to change. I'm also going to go into my first class, like these students I've never had before, which will be a first for me since been 4 years or so since I've had students I don't know. So I'll go into my first year not really knowing what to expect for my first week. So I'll have to be kind of looking at what people are good at, seeing how they can focus. I'll probably let the students pick their own work in own groups and everything and on their own roles until I'm actually 100% sure maybe what I can fiddle with and how I can change this. So what I would like from my peers is what group roles have they found successful or effective in their class, like very specific. What does this do? Again, teach me as if I'm teaching the kids how to do these group roles. And also a follow-up question, what are some of your favorite group tasks that you've done? I love ideas, especially going into this virtual world, maybe that's half virtual coming up. I'm going to have to be really trying to figure out maybe some new digital group work and see what and how it works. So that'd be my focus on my question. Maybe digital. What are your favorite digital group tasks you've ever done? So strategy 3. So I love this strategy. I love it. I think it's essential in science to understand your own thinking. So when I read this in as one of our strategies, I'm immediately intrigued because it's something I've never done. Is naming the process that they're using to think. So in the feedback, ask the student what they did, how they thought through it, what strategy did they use. Maybe explain it on paper, explain it in words, maybe explain it to peers. These are something that intrigues me, but something I've never done. The part of the process I've done a lot is feedback. So I think every teacher is aware of how overwhelming giving feedback is, especially when you're teaching upwards to 140 students. Like there's so much, and so much of it has to be automated or spent at home doing. There's just so much time implemented towards feedback, and it's something I've done a lot over the last 4 years. So again, the thing I want them to do is students naming the process with their own thinking and why. As a science teacher, most of the focus of my class and my goals of my students are focused on them being independent learners and thinkers. Being able to understand your own thinking, or metacognition, is an important outcome of this goal. The strategy specifically allows for students to reflect on their own understanding and how they came across it, which is absolutely essential. I expect my students to be better. This is my how. I expect them to be better to help the peers around them. I expect test scores to go up around them. During class, I will ask students what process they use to come up with their answer, especially during group work. I will ask the students to explain this thought process to the peers around them. I will start this within the first week of school, and we'll have data noting changes of ability in the group, outside of the group, within the first 9 weeks. Mainly from exit tickets. I think exit ticket data would be very essential in this immediate understanding of the processes that are going on. So, my conclusion. So, during our professional development, if I do get in charge of one, which is exceedingly likely with me being in charge of the science department, I think it would focus on building respectful relationships. I think this is one that I would say I'm pretty good at. I understand how to be polite and treat the students with respect. And I think it's something lacking from many of my peers' classrooms I see from first year who never stood in a classroom, maybe as young as the kids themselves, all the way to the older teachers who have been doing this for 40 years. There's a lack of respect, and a lack of polite relationships in all levels. So I would do it because of mainly school culture. I think school culture where every teacher gives the same respect and has the same rapport with the children, with the students, would be amazing. Like you, as a teacher, I know what it's like to get feedback from other class students' rooms about being disrespected, from all this crap, having crying children come to you because they've been suspended for something that's the teacher said or something they said back in response. Like this is constant. And I think it would be amazing if it didn't exist. Like if every teacher, a student went to a different room and always expected to be loved, always expected to have a safe space in every classroom, I think it would improve the school dramatically. And like test scores would be secondary to how much I think it would actually improve the rest of the school. Students would want to come to school. In some ways, it'd be a lot better than home. It would be safe. So the specific aspects I would focus on is building mutual trust between teachers and students and establishing rapport. What does that look like? How are the teachers doing it? And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening to me. This is Adam Curlin signing off.